This is Empire Sports Alliance, Unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie, I'm your host, I'm a wealth guy, and I got my co-host here, Eric.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric, sports medicine concierge service for you.
Awesome. And today we got Ayir Asante, professional wide receiver with experience in the Canadian Football League, as well as the National Football League with the New York Giants. Ayir, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
Awesome. I know before we even got on here, you shared a couple of updates in terms of what's going on within your career. But if you don't mind, kind of for the audience, go a little bit through your journey first. In terms of, let's talk about how you even got into football in itself. When you started, if you played other sports, etc. So kind of your entire journey. Maybe we'll start there, and then we can kind of dive in a little bit more in terms of what's going on currently in your career. So
yeah, so starting as early as I can remember, probably 6 years old, I've been playing sports. I come from a sports family. My uncle, Kasib Powell, he played, I think, 6 years in the NBA, and he's actually now the assistant head coach for the WNBA team, the Valkyries. And then I have my cousin, Khalil Wilkes. He was a 4- or 5-star lineman that played center at Stanford for Andrew Luck. So I had, the family that cared about sports and understood the importance of having us in organized sports young. So, growing up, I played football, soccer, basketball. I was always active, and I loved it. You know what I mean? I loved to compete. I was always fast. And I just loved to go out there and just make plays and have a lot of fun while doing it. Up until about, I think it was, 8th grade, I made a decision. Right, basketball kind of fell off around 6th grade once I realized I wasn't going to be 6'5", and everyone started to about 5'11", 6 foot.
Okay.
So, around that age, I don't know what I was at that point, but some of my friends were getting to that 6'4". I'm like, all right, this isn't as fair as I wanted to be, but we still I was a scrappy guard, get to a steal or two and get all that stuff, but I was still dominant in soccer, still dominant in football. So when I got to making a decision for high school, I had to choose between, soccer and football playing the same season. So I decided playing football just because, I sat there with a really big view, talking with my parents, and it's all right, you want to go to college for this thing, whether it's football or soccer. And, eventually, if you love it and you get the opportunity, you want to go pro. So playing soccer, you're going against the entire world. Football really just going against the United States. Not to say it's any easier, but the percentages are in your favor playing football. So
the pool of talent is a tad smaller, even though big.
Yeah.
It's a tad smaller than going against some of the kids from Europe and Central South.
Yeah, 100%. So
from a math perspective, you're right on. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So I ended up going to St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City. It's about a 45-minute drive, almost an hour commute. From my house. I took 2 trains, a train from New Brunswick to Newark Penn, and then the subway path from Newark to Grove Street, and then walked 8 blocks. And that was my commute to and from school every day, wearing uniforms, all boys school. So but the thing is, St. Peter's Prep is in this conference. It's the second best conference in the country for high school football. And, we play a national schedule. You play teams like IMG, you play Mater Dei, you play Grayson. You go all over the country and play these big schools. We've had Nick Saban come through. We have Urban Meyer come through. Every day you're having a Power 5 coach or coaching staff coming through. So it was a football factory. It's always been, probably our most famous alumni is Micah Fitzpatrick or Will Hill or a bunch of these guys.
Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
Go Jets.
The new Jet, yeah, he's back home. Yeah. So, it was just, it made sense. And then I was able to, I think that was when I started to realize I was actually really, really good at football, because I was able to transition from this Pop Warner team, having fun, the local area kids and stuff like that, to now going to a school where everyone was that star at their team, and still being able to rise to the top and still, shine through. So that was huge for me. It also showed me, it was my first time not playing with weight classes. So it showed me that my game translated without, having to worry about like, oh, like I'm actually about to get hit. You know what I mean? Like this is a little bit different, but my game is kind of centered around getting separation, speed, stretching the field and everything like that, making people miss. So it didn't really hurt me too much at that point. And then, I was able to pick up some offers, I think going in my junior year. Junior year, I was able to pick up some offers. Committed to Lehigh University going into my senior year, just because my head coach and the way that the system was back then was you're committed before you go into senior year, so you can just focus on, winning a state championship. Long story short, head coach at Lehigh ended up becoming sick, and he resigned about a week before signing day. I told Lehigh I'm going to wait until this, there was 2 signing days, like the early and the late window. So I was like, I'll wait till the second one, just because I'm like, I was the first guy committed in this class. Like I'm committed to the school and everything like that. But I just want to make sure at the end of the day, it's a decision you only get to make once. And, my recruitment from there just blew up because they were like, okay, yeah, we lied to you. We offered 10 other kids. They're ready to go through, not ready to go. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to a school that, lies to me. So opened up the recruitment, and Holy Cross came in, swooped in, came and visited me 4 straight days, trying to convince me to come and visit the school. Coach Chesney and that whole staff, who's now at UCLA, they went from Holy Cross to JMU and then now at UCLA. So I'm super excited for them, but same staff, same guys. And they're, just real honest, real open, and didn't promise me anything except for just the opportunity. They saw the talent I had, and they saw where I would fit and kind of what they needed and what I could do, married up. So it was just kind of a match made in heaven for me. Great opportunity. They had the school wise, I had like a respected degree, so that football's not going to be forever. So I wanted to have a degree where I didn't have to, I don't have to go back to school, but it's like, all right, like I can hang my hat on this, and work that, that 40-year decision, but then also play some serious football, have, a school that's invested, they have like a $90 million athletic facility. The community cares about football and everything like that. So,
real quick, just a question in terms of like obviously going through the recruiting process from a college perspective. Could you kind of give us a little bit of a comparison how it was with high school? Obviously, making the decision in terms of going with football over soccer. How was the recruiting experience from a high school perspective versus then college? Was it similar?
Yeah. So I mean, in high school, at least back, I know it's a little bit different now because obviously, NIL changes everything, right? Yep. Now, like money and everything like that. Like I wasn't this big recruit, this young guy that everyone's like, oh, he's a 5-star in 8th grade. That wasn't me. So like I wasn't being highly touted by high schools or anything like that. I don't even know if that's really happening right now. I know you might see some stuff like that, but like it was really about where I wanted to go. And, it always, like, again, the things that were similar were, all right, I needed to go to somewhere that, was good academically. My dad's a principal, retired principal now. My mom works at a university. So school is important to my family. We understand the importance of, academia. So it's like, I need to be stimulated. I need to be, stay on the right track. I need to be challenged in the classroom, but then I also need to be around some people on the football field or, at that point, making the decision, the soccer field, who also cared about the sport the same way I did, right? At the end of the day, like, you gotta care the same way, right? If you have guys that are just playing it for fun and you're trying to go and do something with it, it's not going to marry up, right? Like the way that we speak, our time commitment, like it's not going to be the same.
You're talking about on a high school level now, right?
On a high school level. When you get to the now going to college, you start to think, I think the biggest difference is it's a lot more individualistic.
How do you address it on a high school level? Again, you have ideas, you have ambitions to go to the next level potentially. And then you have a couple of guys on the team on a high school level that, hey, you know what, we're kind of doing this for fun. This is great, camaraderie and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you address that? How does that work in a locker room?
Well, like for me, fortunately enough, like going to St. Peter's Prep, like it's not known as a football factory. I think right now they actually might put out more basketball players than football players, but like our conference, it's just kind of like that's how it works. And I know I've talked to some friends from different states. Like I know in Georgia, like the public schools are the powerhouses and stuff like that. Like our conference is called the Super Football Conference in North Jersey. Like you have dudes coming from Connecticut, right? We had dudes coming from New York and Pennsylvania. We had a couple of transfers from Texas, and like everyone on your team is trying to go play college football. So like there really wasn't too much. Now again, not everyone's going to, right? That's not the reality, but it's just the mindset, right? And one thing, you know, funny enough, I got it from Coach Chesney is alignment. Like that's something that I think like is the number one like hallmark thing of a great program, at least for football, is alignment, right? From the top down. Like your head coach, your coordinators, your assistant coaches, your captains on your team, your leaders, to your young freshmen, to the equipment managers and the athletic staff, like they all have to understand and see the same goal, right? And like at St. Peter's Prep, it like there was no question. Is like we want to go win a state championship, and when we go do that, we will go to college for free. Like that was kind of the agreement. Like, and that's kind of what took me to St. Peter's Prep. Obviously, my cousin Khalil Wilkes, he went there, so we had some familiarity with the school and the ideals. You know, it's a Jesuit education, so we had a lot of like. I didn't personally do too many mission trips. We had, you know, some retreats and stuff like that. And it's just like the school's motto is meant for others, right? So like, I don't know. It's just the philosophy behind it and the thought process is married up with like my personal morals and everything like that. And I think that it puts you around like-minded people who come from like-minded like households, or people who understand and value those morals and values and understanding and principles. So like you're around similar guys. Obviously, we all come from different backgrounds and everything, but like you have to be able to identify those morals and principles and see their value to be able to be like, all right, this is a school that like you should be commuting, taking 2 trains to go to the school. Like that doesn't happen by accident. So like when you have so many guys, not like I'm not even close to the furthest commute. You know what I mean? Some dudes were doing 2-hour commutes. Some families, they were getting apartments in Jersey City just so their kid could go there. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a bunch of sacrifices that are made. And again, it's like that for Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco, DePaul, St. Joe's, Paramus, and we're all in the same conference. So, you know, it's all kind of like, it's like 8 schools doing the same thing and, you know, similar, just different areas, but all in the same conference. So like, that's kind of what drew me there. When you're kind of, just to answer your question, like when you're looking at college, it's different because now it's like, all right, now I'm being recruited. Now they're talking about you and your fit, right? And then now you're thinking about like, all right, what am I going to be able to show? Like in high school, you're going in there, like at most high schools, you're playing both sides of the ball, right? You're just trying to be the dude. Like you're trying to, you know, help win the game. You're doing returning. You're doing whatever, right? Like in college, they're like, hey, we're recruiting you for this position. And then, for instance, with me specifically at receiver, they're like, okay, we have this 6'5" guy who's going to play outside, right? He's going to be our jump ball guy. We have, you know, this guy over here that, you know, runs the best routes or whatever. You're going to be our fast guy. And, you know, like, you have, like, defined roles within an offense. And that's a lot different than high school. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of slip up when they, you know, make their decision for for college. And then you got to think about, like, conferences like the Big North. Not the Big North, sorry, the Big Ten. They're a smash mouth conference, right? They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna use tight ends, and you know they kind of live by that. Now, obviously, you're still gonna have receivers and everything like that, but you have the Iowas or like a Penn State or like they use tight ends. Like they're, you know, like that's kind of what they're gonna hang their hat on, and you know, great defense. Whereas, you know, when you go out west to what was like the Pac-12 or like you go down to the Big Ten, they're throwing the ball, right? You know, they're what is that offense? What is it called? I'm blanking on it now. It's a shame. They're scoring points, man. You know what I mean? They're spreading the ball around. They're scoring points. They're putting up points, and they want to outscore you. You know, a lot more vertical, a lot more stretch the field, a lot less long words in the huddle, a lot quicker, you know, tempo and everything like that. So you got to take all of that into account. And then, like, again, you got to see what your priorities are, right? Like, some people don't care about school, right? And that's just...
I'm curious, playing soccer, how much did that help your footwork and your skill set at a receiver Did you ever try being a running back because of that also? I mean, I know you're smaller, but and then how has that helped you throughout your career also?
Yeah. So soccer, I think, naturally helped my football career in that way of like building my footwork. Obviously, to play soccer, you have to have great footwork. And we, with the soccer teams, we'd go, they'd have us train with the Dutch. We have a Dutch soccer training facility in my town, and we'd go with the Dutch and, get our footwork crazy. But it definitely translates. And again, I think all athletes who play football usually, like if you're an athlete at a young age, you play running back, because when you start out, no one's arm strong enough to be a quarterback and throw the ball. So like they're just like, all right, give him the ball as fast as possible. So I started out as a running back, and it was a lot of fun. But as we started to develop the ability to throw the ball, I moved out because, like you said, I'm not built to take those hits repeatedly.
I was going to ask, from a running back perspective, a lot of receivers that are being asked to play running back, don't necessarily want to do that, but because it's fun if you hit the home run, but when you meet that middle linebacker, how much fun is that? Can you explain?
Yeah, and like again, I'm not old, but like we were still hitting back then. You know what I mean? Like like football was still football, and guys were getting lit up. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just run past everyone and make them not miss and just go score. So. Kind of made a business decision there.
Wait,
from a
real
position
quick,
perspective,
what was your major in college? What?
Psychology.
Huh?
Psychology.
Okay, so you would do sports psychology and stuff?
Yeah. So what ended up happening there was I went to at Holy Cross, they're liberal arts. So I wanted to do physical therapy. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I was interested in, but they didn't have that. So
Eric knows nothing about physical therapy.
So I'm talking to the right guy.
Yeah.
So when I go, I'm like, all right, well, I want to go physical therapy. They're like, all right, we don't have that. So I'm like, all right. They're like, what are you best at? Coming from high school, I was really good at math. So I'm like, you know what? Be a math major. They're like, okay, cool. I go calculus 1, I get 100. No, sorry, I got a 99. Got a 99 in class. So I'm like, okay, cool. The next semester, like, try calculus 2. The second week of calculus 2, my teacher called me in and he's like, dude, what are you doing in this class? I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I'm just trying. He's like, you're the only mathematician. Like, everyone else in this class wants to like solve these unsolvable math equations. He's like, bro, you're playing football. Like, I don't think this is like what you need to do. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I met with the guy or whatever, because we had advisors, but they really weren't advisors. But they made me do medical ethics, which sounds amazing, right, for that like track, but it really was just bio, chem, and ethics. So one bio class, one chem class, and then I was back in his office, and then that's when I had some football alumni, because this is now sophomore year, and now I'm like, because I had a really, really good freshman year, and sophomore year was COVID, but I was able to do what I had to do in that spring season, and then some of the alumni were coming to me like, bro, you can play in the NFL, so like, let's just lock in. And it wasn't like explicitly said like this, but they're pretty much like, all right, our alumni network is pretty strong, so like, do what just makes the most sense to you in school, get the best grades you can, and then like we'll figure it out after, but like we need you to like do this football stuff. So I'd always, because again, we had like gen eds that you had to take, so you had to get some, I had like religion classes and history classes and all this different type of stuff. So I ended up taking a psychology class, a sociology class, and an anthropology class, and they kind of exposed me to like a different type of learning. And psychology has made a lot of sense to me. I've always been like a guy that likes to think, and think like always. My parents used to be annoyed when I was growing up because I'm always asking why. You know what I mean? I need to know why. So it kind of just made sense to me. And then as I started to take those classes, like I don't know, it was just a home run for me. Like I could go into those classes and actually have like look forward to going to these classes and in the discussions and just seeing different people's perspectives and hearing things that like I've never even thought of in my entire life. And then, to other people that are fluent in it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just eye-opening for me. And it was kind of, it showed me what like the biggest reason I went to Holy Cross, right? To get exposed to some of this stuff. And it was good to actually get good grades for it. You know what I mean? Like I was working hard, like I was working hard in the other classes, but like the results were a lot better. So it just made a lot more sense for me.
Hey, I have one of my Olympic medalist swimmers. He went to Stanford, and then he's from Austria, so he went to a couple Olympics, got a silver and stuff. When he retired, he went to UCLA and got a sports psychology degree, and now he's a sports psychologist. And first off, he's so out there on the way he thinks and his thought process. It's really cool how he connects with people. So it definitely could be a good thing for you down the road once you retire.
100%, something to consider. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think it's a field that's growing right now too, especially as the leagues start to focus on like mental health and just the complete player. It's definitely a booming industry.
Let me ask you again in terms of like from a position perspective, like in terms of like especially we have an audience of like younger players. So you go into college, and at one point, from a recruiting perspective, all of a sudden it's again you have a certain height. They're going to put you in a certain position from an early, basically from day one, right? Meaning, okay, you're about 6 feet. We're going to use you as a slot receiver versus on the outside. So, and then you're in that particular role, which I would imagine then, even if you think further going to the pros, if you're a slot receiver, they're not all of a sudden going to draft you as an outside guy. I mean, is that, again, you're really kind of honing in and you're studying the craft of being a slot receiver more so than having different functions across the field, or how is that?
Yeah, I mean, like, especially when you're getting in, meaning, when you're going to college as a freshman, like, you have to understand that you got to kind of, like, when they say, like, you got to know the game or, like, respect the game and do your homework and everything like that. So at first, everyone is in a similar situation where, all right, you're 18, you just dominated high school football, and you're going to do stuff your way, right? You're like, man, like, I got here because I was doing it this way. I was making these plays and X, Y, Z. But once you do your homework, you understand, right, these are systems. Like, this is an offensive system that, relies on certain guys being of certain skill sets. Now, obviously, the more you can do, the better in terms of like getting on the field early, right? Like the fact that I could get off press means that I could play outside, even though I don't have the body type for playing outside.
Yes.
Right. And then like being able to return punts and return kicks or be a gunner on, like, you know what I mean? All that type of stuff just only opens up your ability because again, right, these rosters in college, especially at the FCS level, I think we only traveled 65. So like, you got to be able to contribute on special teams and play offense. But then also, like, if you only play X, but I play X, Y, and Z, they're going to bring me, right? Like, just because even if I'm not starting, any of the guys go down, I can go in and they have confidence in playing me. So you kind of have to understand where you fit. And the reason why I say that, like, is you have to kind of take an ownership over that because, again, recruitment is recruitment, right? You're the hot new transfer girl, right, from a town over, and everyone's telling you exactly what you want to hear, right? Like it all sounds amazing, but then you got to start to like actually do your own research and see like, okay, this team throws the ball 10 times a game. You're not gonna all of a sudden change your whole thing for me, right? Like that's not how that works. But if you got a guy that kind of favors, your archetype, if you will, right? Like, or your gameplay or your style that went there and had a lot of success and you remind them of that guy, it's very possible that you would do something very similar.
I think you brought up a good point, especially again for young players. Just because you're a certain height, yes, hypothetically speaking, you might be fitting in the slot best, but based on your body structure, you also have quickness. So if there's press coverage, you can actually make somebody miss on the outside and go, right? Which again, just because from a size perspective, it doesn't limit you per se, right? Not everybody's Randy Moss's height and is an outside is not an outright receiver, right?
No, not at all. I mean, like, and that's why kind of I emphasize like that's when you're getting into college football. Once you establish, and what I mean, like, you make a couple plays, you show the coach that okay, like I'm not just a high school athlete, like I can do this in the college level. Like again, so just speaking from my experience, my freshman year I was in the slot. Like that was my entire game. You know, I was getting bubble screens, RPOs, making people miss, and then a couple of like shots. My sophomore year, I was able to put on some weight. You know, my freshman year, I probably played around like 165 to 170, and then headed into my sophomore year, I was about like probably like a 175, 180, but it was pure muscle, and I was able to, you know, deal with a lot of the press a lot better. So I was able to play outside, and it opened up my game. I was able to come off the field less, right? Like when we went from 10 personnel to 11 personnel, they would just move me outside. And then it was something that like I prided myself on, because it was like, all right, like now I'm becoming, in my mind, more of a true receiver, right? A guy that you need to have on the field, someone that, you know, you just got to get the ball to. That was, you know, something that I took pride in. But then also it's like, I'm kind of expanding my skill set. Like I can catch a contested ball, or I can just be wide open, right? Or I can catch the ball short and go long, or I can run this route and then, you know, get open 6 yards down the field and still track the ball and catch it over the shoulder. Like just being able to do that kind of, I don't know. It was just like a pride thing for me. But then later on, you know, as you get older, again, like that sophomore, junior year, you start to say like, okay, I'm making plays consistently. You start thinking about the league. You're like, all right, I got to put this stuff on film. So it's like, all right, I'm putting reps from the slot on tape. I'm putting reps from outside on tape. I'm putting the reps in the backfield out on tape. And again, like you're saying, none of this stuff is like cold cut, like cookie cutter by any means. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone's ability is different. And it's really about like what you're willing to put the work in for. Like at the end of the day, like none of that happened by accident. Like I worked to be like, all right, let me work on my releases. Let me work on getting separation so I can get better at this, or let me shore up this part of my game so I can, you know, show it. And it just worked out for me that way because I felt like I'd earned it. You know what I mean? I was able to pull all the work in and build my own confidence in those areas.
Let me kind of going back a little for the psychology and what you're saying right now. You kind of want to be humble. You want to check your ego at the door, but you also want to be confident and show the coaches that you could do all this stuff, because at the end of the day, you're competing for your position every day. Someone is trying to come and knock you off. So how do you balance that side of things to maintain it in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like you said, I think you said it pretty like spot on. You got to check your ego, right? Because again, like that ego is super built coming off, you know, high school, right? Prom, senior, you're the big man on campus, cool. You're going to college football, like that's awesome. And then you're right back at the bottom of the totem pole. So, you know, you kind of have to humble yourself, right? Just check yourself. Like in reality now, again, everyone who is here also got here, right? Like they're supposed to be here, but so are you, right? And then a lot of it is just like you said, it's a balance. You got to have that, you have to stay humble, but you have to have that confidence, right? The same thing that got you to become that guy in high school was.
It's a fine line, no?
100%. It's easy to go either way, right? You know, I've had bad games where I'm sitting there and you have self-doubts, and then you have great games and you're like, I'm the greatest guy ever, right? Like, so that's just the reality of it, and it's natural, but it's always being able to come back to that middle and understand, like, I got to put this work in the same way. Like in high school, I outworked everyone during the summer, and then that was shown in the fall. So like I always got to put in this extra work, no matter how talented I am or whatever. I always got to do that extra 1%, 2%, whatever to get that edge. And like, I think that's where a lot of the confidence comes from, right? Because I think there's times where you'll get around some guys who are ultra confident, and it almost is intimidating, right? Because it exposes your insecurities a little bit. When someone's so confident in themselves, it just begs you to ask, why am I not as confident in this, right? And then it kind of feels as if, they're kind of speaking to you a little bit, and you're like, hold on. When in reality, all it is, all right, I got to build my confidence. And how do you do that? Is just by putting the work in, right? Like anytime I would go and we do releases or anything like that, I didn't have the ego of like, I can't be beaten. That's not realistic. But I had the confidence because I put the work in to know, like, I'm gonna go, if I have 10 reps, I'm gonna win at least 9 of these reps, right? Like that's just kind of where I am because of the work that I put in. And the thing is, like, it takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of losses to get to that point, right? It takes me going home and linking up with some of these NFL guys that, you know, are from Jersey and they're home and, hey, you know, Ayir, let's get some work. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm getting my butt kicked. You know what I mean? I'm struggling out there, but again, just being humble, right? Being able to learn and sacrifice and be like, all right, like I need this work because I need to get better, and understanding, like, if you look at, you know, in recent news, right, they just signed, the New York Giants just signed Odell Beckham, right? Yes. I think he's 33 years old. He's been a free agent for a little bit, but he's been working this entire time, right? He's still training. These guys, top guys, you know, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, what do they do in the offseason? They work their butt off. And it's like, you think about these guys, they could easily be the top guy and just chill, right? Man, I had 1,500 yards in the National Football League last year. I'm making $40 million a year. Like, I made it. I'm good. Like, there's nothing better. But it's not that, right? It's the fact that they're still chasing. Like, you have to chase. You have to continue to get better. The game's always growing, so you have to always grow. And I think that's the idea.
I think with Eric's point in terms of like, you know, mental, you know, mindset, I think for guys like this, because the physical attributes they bring to the table are off the charts already. But in terms of like what you just said, you're 33, right? Been out of the league, but this mindset to constantly keep going, I think that's just as important as physical ability as well, right?
No, I mean, it's almost more important. I always tell kids, because I start, like when I'm home, I actually work with a couple of the, you know, high school athletes or college athletes who are around, just because I'm always outside. So it's never like a big deal to work out or anything like that. But it's like 10 times more important, the mental part, because at some point the physical is going to catch up, right? Like, no matter how fast you think you are, you're going to go and find someone faster, right? No matter. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So you have, but you have some, like, no matter how big you are, how fast you are, right? How well you throw the ball or whatever, there's going to be someone that does it, if not better, just as good as you do. So then it's like, all right, well, what's the edge, right? And then again, this is where you do your homework, right? You look at a guy like, the best example ever is Tom Brady, right? You're like, what made him special? Was he, now again, obviously he's an elite thrower of the football. Like, let's not take that away, right? Or anything like that. But it's like, this dude had an edge, right? He understood the game better. He's calling out. I remember seeing some clips. He's telling the defenders that they're in the wrong alignment. Yeah. And it's like, how do you know their defensive alignment better than them? Like, it's insane. And then when you get around these elite guys, you start to understand, like, okay, yeah, your work ethic is crazy, right? But like, just the little tidbits of the game that they understand, like, it just eliminates, right? When you think about like your processing, right? You have a million things to worry about, right? Looking at the safety, all right, looking at this, linebackers outside, corners at this depth. Okay, now they're rotating. All right, how much time's on the clock? What's the down and distance? What's the situation? There's a million things going on, right? The greats know how to take like this and then shrink it down to this, right? Just eliminating stuff like, all right, that safety is off the hash. That one's in the middle of the field. So they're probably going to spin, like, on film, they put it 75% of the time. So I know he's coming down. If he's coming down, that linebacker's inside shade and his inside foot is up. So that means he's probably blitzing, which means I'm hot, which means I'm getting the ball, right? Like, it's just like that right there. Now he's sitting, he's ready. He knows 1, 2, 3, break, get the ball. And he's not surprised. You expect things to happen, right? And like, to me, that's kind of the mental advantage, right? Like when you make those extraordinary plays routinely, right? You're not surprised by the exceptional things. That just becomes the standard. And I think that's what like separates a lot of dudes, because, bro, like, I met some guys that are flying. I met some 6'5" receivers who look like they're chiseled out of stone. You're like, bro, this is ridiculous. Like this doesn't make sense. And then you go play football and it's not the same thing at all, right? And it's just like, all right, it has to translate. But the thing is, you have all the physical tools, right? You're blessed by God, right? Sometimes God made you better, right? That's what I tell some guys, just like, hey, like, that's
what it is.
Well, that's what it is. But then got to translate it.
There's also the back end of things. You look at Tom Brady, You look at LeBron, Kobe, you know, a lot of these guys, and they have the private chefs. They have the guys like me that are flying around and taking care of them on a regular basis. They're doing all the other stuff also. And what do you say to the younger guys who, yeah, they don't have the same income as the older guys, but at the same time, if you don't invest in yourself and put into yourself, you're not going to have a long career. The average NFL player is what, 2.5, 3.5 years? You know, so what makes a guy last even 5, 10 years compared to the others? And a lot of the younger guys are also like, I'm good. You know, I got no pain or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you're making great points. Like you have to, I think investing in yourself has the highest ROI of any investment you could possibly make, right? At the end of the day, especially in a sport like football, you have to take care of your body, right? You have to take care of your mental, whether that's obviously that's going to change and get more expensive and extravagant as your income changes, right? I mean, like in high school, it's kind of about your situation and what your support system allows, right? Like at my high school, we had, pretty good training facility, but we had to take advantage of that, right? Like, getting in there anytime you had a nick or bruise or bump, right? Making sure that you're taking care of stuff before, they become something serious, right? Like you got to get ahead of things. And I think that's part of being an adult. That's part of being mature. And that's part of being professional, right? My coaches are always filled with quotes. So, I find that now whenever I'm talking to people about my experience, I spit these quotes back out. But Coach Chesney, again, another great quote guy, he said, champions are champions far before they are ever crowned champion, right? And the way that I've kind of translated that into my everyday life is just the fact that, like, if you want to be something, right? You want to be a college football player. It doesn't start when you sign that national letter of intent, right? It doesn't start when you get to that school. It starts that moment when you decide, hey, I want to be a college football player. So then you have to eat like a college football player. You have to think like a college football player. You have to manage your time. You have to train. You have to everything, right? And then the same thing happens when you try to become a professional football player. You go to the Giants, right? In their team meeting room, one of their slogans is "Be a pro," right? And it's like, what does that mean? It means be a pro, right? Sleep like a pro, eat like a pro, prepare like a pro, right? If this is your job, just like the same way anyone else, right? You don't show up to your job, you're not ready, you're not prepared, you didn't sleep right, whatever, you're going to get fired. Now, again, now we're talking about the job of playing a game where the margins are so small and everyone in the world would take your job in a heartbeat. So you got to understand, you have to take this as serious as everyone else around you is taking it. And I think that's kind of a big thing for kids to start to realize earlier. And then it's a shame, not a shame. It's awesome that they'll be able to have the opportunity to make money in college. But now all that means is, that window is being moved down, right? Like you have to be a lot sharper at 18 than many of us were at that age. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this also. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do a lot of work with MLB and even NBA is the same. That's guaranteed money. So a lot of these guys go to the training staff because they don't care about the injuries. They're not going to be cut. But with the NFL, it's not. And you guys get paychecks on Tuesdays, right? I think you guys get paid week to week. And so a lot of guys don't go to the training staff because they don't want them to know, oh yeah, I tweaked my back or my shoulder or twisted my ankle. I could push through it. And that's where guys, again, bring me in to come and take care of them on the side so the training staff doesn't know. But I would think that leads to a number of issues, a number of injuries that get out of control, especially if guys downplay it too much.
Yeah, I definitely believe, like, that was another thing I learned. Like, a lot of people have third party just ways to deal with pain and everything like that. Obviously, you have to be like NFL compliant, you know, especially if you're taking like anything like supplement wise or anything like that. But if you're like you said, an edge of the roster, like bottom roster guy, right? You understand how fragile it is, right? Especially in a training camp, especially, you know, when you're somewhere new, you haven't really made your name yet. It is kind of scary. Like, I'm a guy where, like, if I can figure something out, I will without having to go into the training room, right? Like, for instance, when I was with the Giants, I was coming off of dealing with shin splints the year before. Now, I kind of had a remedy of like, all right, I know, all right, after practice, I'm right in the cold tubs. You know, before practice, I'm in the hot tubs. I'm doing my thing. I'm stretching in the steam room, whatever. I had my routine, but that's also kind of like part of being a pro, right? Understanding how to take care of yourself. And again, if I don't know how to, finding people who will, right? And it's like being able to be vocal. At the end of the day, like, everyone in there is in a similar boat. Even the guys with guaranteed money, you know, they all understand what the situation is for everyone. Like, you're not alone in your situation. Even the people, you know, there's some people in, you know, obviously now there's like mandatory stuff that gets mandatorily reported, right? With the, you know, the head trainer and stuff like that. But you might have a side trainer that you might know, and you're like, hey, like, you know, this is hurting. Should I come in? They might tell you, hey, if I were you, I wouldn't come in for that, right? And I would go, you know, whatever. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to be able to be proactive about you. You have to take you more seriously than you've ever taken yourself, right? Yeah. Like, I'm a guy that like I learned like massages were huge for me, and then I also started to do some it was like myofascial release stuff. Yeah. And I kind of learned about that my junior year. My athletic trainer, Alicia Caswell, she's the head trainer at Holy Cross still. She kind of, you know, was showing me these new techniques and everything like that. And I started to perform really well with it. And, you know, ever since then, I kind of married up with those modalities and stuff like that. But like, everyone's different, right? Like, I had some guys that swore by needling. They loved needling and everything. Me, I needled one time and I felt terrible for 3 days. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta find what works, right? And totally. That's kind of, yeah.
On that note,
go ahead, Eric. Skipped over it a little, but talk to us going from college into the NFL and you know, drafting and getting picked up with the Giants. Were you excited? Was there another team you wanted and all that?
Yeah, just the reality of like kind of professional football, what it meant for you. Again, to Eric's point, going from college, playing for the pros, from obviously again preparation perspective, you know, your career, your experience, but also the business side of things. So
yeah, so like I said, like my senior year, well, all right, after my sophomore year it became reality. Junior and senior year were pretty good, and we shifted from but to get back into it, right? So sophomore year, going to the NFL, definitely let's do this. So then junior year and senior year, we kind of shifted to a dual quarterback system, less passing, a lot of quarterback runs, a lot of duo, all that stuff. So my stats kind of took a back seat a little bit, but we were winning. So like at the end of the day, that's fine. I kind of built up my respect in the area and everything like that, so I knew I'd be fine. And then like my senior year, that's when the agents start coming in. They start asking you, where do you want to train, and you know, all that stuff. Try to build those relationships, all that stuff. So that's kind of when it started. I started to realize like I'm not going to get drafted with where I am right now. And I had a COVID year, so I'm like, all right, I have a decision to make. I'm either going to come back here, graduate, do a 5th year, or I can go somewhere else. And pretty much like I sat down with the coaching staff and we decided like, I'm like, nothing's going to change. Like, we're going to have the same OC, same quarterback. We had this conversation my junior year. I'm like, hey, I need some more stats to, you know, become a better prospect. They told me a bunch of stuff and it was like, all right, cool. Nothing changed. So I had to make a decision to enter the transfer portal, which I felt like, you know, was deserved. I did my 4 years. You know, I gave the school everything I had. My senior year, we didn't lose a game. You know, we went to the play. I have all the Holy Cross playoff wins in school history. So, that was a bunch of fun and all that stuff. So once I entered the portal, I had 56 offers in the portal. Like pretty much I could have went anywhere in the FCS if I wanted. And then I had like a couple group of five. No, I had like a lot of group of fives, but a couple power five. And I ended up at University of Wyoming just because of who they played. It was a pro style offense. Everything that I felt that I didn't show in my film. And from talking to a couple scouts and everything at Holy Cross my senior year, they're like, we don't know if you can do this and we don't know if you can do that. And they were like, we know you personally, so we know you can do this, but like, it's not about personal relationships. It's about what you put on film, right? It's about like who you are on film. So I'm like, all right, let me answer some of those questions. So I was able to go, committed to Wyoming, and had a really great year. We didn't lose any home games, 9-win
TCU
season.
at all that year?
TCU, no, we were home
SDSU,
versus
San Diego State. Sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah, no SDSU either, actually. But like we had, what was it? What's the other one? Not San Jose. Fresno State. We had them at home. And we opened up with Texas Tech at home. That was pretty cool. Double overtime win. We played at the University of Texas the week after they beat Bama. So played in front of 115,000. We played Ashton Genty at Boise State. We played at UNLV. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a great experience through and through. And then it, put me on a bigger stage, right? Playing on national television every week, playing in the Mountain West, right? Playing an SEC team, all that stuff kind of just exposed. It gave me more exposure, got me invited to some senior bowls and everything like that. So as soon as the season's over, you have to start training for either the combine or your pro day, right? Everyone's trying to get invited to the combine. Now, seeing as that I only had 1 year at FBS, like I knew I wasn't going to be a combine guy. But pro day, I'm like, all right, it's the same thing for me. I don't really care. Now, the process from there is you have to find an agent. Now, I was blessed enough to, again, before I got to Wyoming, I had 1,700 yards and I scored 19 touchdowns under my belt. So it was like, I've done enough to where, people could see and translate my game or whatever. So I actually ended up interviewing with, I want to say 16 different agencies. So I was able to pick which agency I wanted to represent me, which is a blessing. But I know it's not like that for everyone. Some people got to reach out and find agencies to, represent them or everything like that. But for me, I got interviewed. And again, I just made it real simple, right? What is your budget? What do you guys see in me? And then, what can you do for me, right? At the end of the day, right? NFLPA has set the cap, so their percentage can't go higher than 3%. And I don't want you taking less than 3% because I know that you have other guys at 3%. You're going to push them more because, higher ROI. At the end of the day, that's really not a big deal, but I understand training's expensive. So I knew I had a relationship with Test Football. They're based in New Jersey, but they do a training, system in Miami. And I had a bunch of friends and damn near family that trained with them. I trusted them. They got really great results and everything like that. So I wanted to train there, but I knew it was going to, cost a pretty penny that I just didn't have. So I needed an agent that was going to be able to back me up. And I went with the best decision. I signed with Joe Vaccaro and Nate Richmond of 3XL Sports, and they sent me down to test, and I went down straight to Miami. My bowl game was actually December 30th. I flew home the 31st, and I was in Miami January 2nd. That's just how quick the turnaround is. You're living out of a suitcase, bringing all your stuff home, and then right down to Miami, and then we're training. But, obviously that 40 is going to make or break a lot of stuff. And I felt like, I had trained and I had run some 4.4s at Holy Cross when we were doing training, but I wasn't training for a 40, it was just doing football training. So I felt as though I could, be in that low 4.4 and hopefully break 4.3. And then, so I went to Pro Day. First one I ran, I think they, again, the thing about Pro Days is that they give you ranges because everyone has different times. And we had all 32 teams there, but I heard the first one was anywhere from 4.4 to 4.54, which I'm I don't understand how you could have a whole .01 difference, but or .1 whatever. but ultimately I was able to, run fast, jump high, ran really great routes, and just kind of was able to be who I was. Kind of skipped over. I went to the All-Star game, Tropical Bowl. I was able to, show who I was there and everything like that. But, that whole, what is it, like month or 2 months is just you trying to show, hey, like I have exceptional traits that you can translate and kind of marry up with the film, which is kind of one of those weird things because you've been playing football your whole life. And it's like, it's usually just been about the football, right? Like I wish the draft was just like right after the season. You just know who's the best player right there and you go from there. But, some teams are in love with traits more than they are with film, which is weird to me. But I think that's how you end up with busts and stuff like that. But you marry the two up, right? Traits, film, whatever. And then like I was getting calls from teams, questionnaires from teams. My agent, he loved how I was doing everything. Like every opportunity I had, I was able to like capitalize on it. Each team, they have this thing called local days where it's like a workout for, they do it different now, but it was like anyone within 150-mile radius of the facility qualified, whether like you went to a school. So for instance, like with the Giants, you had all the kids from New Jersey, New York, like Eastern Pennsylvania, and parts of Connecticut. But then you had like all the kids who went to Rutgers or Princeton or Monmouth or Columbia or whatever in the area. Like they all qualify, so you all get invited, which is pretty cool. So I went to the Giants, Jets, qualified for the Patriots because of Holy Cross, but it was the same day as the Giants, and I'd already committed to the Giants. And then I went to the Denver Broncos. Really hard to read. They're like 30-minute workouts. The entire front office is there, so it's really intimidating. They might hold you after, do a couple quick meetings or a little physical or whatever, and then you're out of there. So really hard to read. Like I told my agent after the Giants workout, I was like, I think they hate me. After the Jets workout, I was like, I think they're gonna draft me. Went to the Broncos, I was like, I literally don't know. Like it's just you don't know, and you have a million questions, and there's just no one that's gonna have the answer for you, right? Like your agent's gonna say like, all right, in past years, someone that has said this, in a similar situation, like, yeah, that was good. And, and then you're going to ask someone else and they're like, no, that means they hate you. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those type of situations. So, I kind of just did what I had to do with that. And then we got to draft day, man. I didn't throw a party or anything like that. I had my closest friends, they came over to the house. I knew I wasn't going first or second day, right? Like the last conversation with my agent was like, just depending on how the draft runs, like teams are talking about grabbing you third day, and if not third day, definitely going to sign you or whatever. So I was feeling confident.
Was it undrafted free agent then?
Yeah, like it was either going to be like a 6th round or UDFA, which is at the end of the day. I mean, again, you don't get to choose, so it's like not like I had a choice, but
right.
I'm like either way, I'm getting an opportunity. That's fine. So. First day was fine, nothing. Oddly enough, right, the Giants draft Malik Neighbors 6th overall, and they call me. So, like, I see the 6th overall pick go, and then I get a call. I look down, I'm like, it's the Giants. I answered, and they're like, yeah, man, we want to let you know, like, we love you and everything. I'm like, bro, like, I wasn't expecting to go 6th overall in the draft. You know what I mean? Like, why are you guys calling me right now? But,
So, wait, they actually give you the courtesy. So, Malik Neighbors gets drafted, right? And then you get a call. I mean, that's pretty cool. Let's just let you know we still love you. Like, hey, maybe later in the draft, or what was?
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
In the moment, but like looking back, it felt as though they were jockeying for positioning for UDFA. So like, basically, yeah. When the draft is done, each team has a pool of UDFA money, and they just offer these contracts. And the thing is, it's like as soon as they start getting snatched up, like. That's kind of how it goes, right? And there's gonna be guys who are kind of all have these draft grades. So maybe I was a guy that had a draft grade for multiple teams, so they knew like, all right, there's gonna be a bunch of teams trying to get him as UDFA because it's a steal. So they just try to jockey for positioning, and then that's when you see the difference between like in the guaranteed money or your signing bonus or whatever. But
so they made a business decision. That was a business call, basically saying, hey. We're still thinking about you. Basically, after the draft, you don't be talking to other teams or like, just know we want to give you an offer of some sort. They just try to kind of like place a little,
It worked. I mean, it got my attention. You know what I mean? Had me thinking. I mean, so then second day, woke up. They the Giants called me 3 more times. They called my agent 3 times. So we're like, all right, they have some interest. And again, like a lot of the times, like I wasn't getting too many straight phone calls except from the Giants because I have an agent, right? So he's getting these calls and he's reporting back to me and everything like that. But again, I worked out the first and second day of the draft. Like I was like, all right, like business as usual. Day 3 is when I have my friends come over. I'm like, all right, there's a chance I get drafted. So, I want people to be here. But again, there's like my closest friends and then my mom, dad, my sister or whatever. But yeah, the phone calls started to heat up then. And then like, as you get to like the last round, some teams are out of picks. So they're already starting to go and get it going. So, yeah, my agent calls me and he's just like, all right, man, like, if I remember correctly, he's like, Vikings, Packers, Commanders, Giants, Jets, Ravens, Patriots. I'm like, okay, cool. Hangs up. Another 2 picks go by or whatever. He calls me back. He's like, all right, Jets are full. Commanders are full. Vikings are thinking about it. Ravens are thinking about it. Like, Giants are yes. Packers are trying to figure out what they're going to offer you. I'm like, okay. So, like, I don't know. Before, like, I'm thinking I'm going to have time. I'm going to, like, roll this over later. But then I'm like, oh my God, like this is closing. Like, all right. So then the draft ends and he calls me. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, all right. I'm like, I think it would be cool to go to the Giants, local. Their wide receiver room wasn't as sure as like the other, like the Packers had the youngest wide receiver room in the country. And I'm like, my thing is I'm valuable because I'm young and I'm cheap. Everyone in the room is young and cheap. So like that doesn't make sense for me to go over there. So ultimately I was like, let's just go Giants. And he's like, all right, bet. And then it hangs up. So I sat there. I'm like, wait. I call him back. I'm like, so, like, am I a Giant? He's like, bro, you're a New York Giant. I'm like, okay. So then it, like, after that, literally, like, I hung up. And then, like, my phone started blowing up because, like, I don't know how it happens this fast, but, like, my phone started blowing up. Like, my Holy Cross had posted an edit of me in a Giants jersey. And they're like, Ayir signed with the Giants. I'm like, I don't even, like, they knew before I knew, kind of. But, yeah, from that moment on.
Feel going to the Giants, growing up in Jersey and all that.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, I grew up an Eagles fan.
Birds.
Go Birds for sure. But, yeah, it was kind of weird just because, like, again, like my family, they're Giants fans, and well, especially my dad. So it was always fun watching the Giants Eagles games and stuff like that, and going against the Giants or whatever. But in games where the Eagles were involved, you root for them, just being the local team. But it was really funny. I was talking about earlier, like walking into the building, and they're like, "Oh, you're from Jersey." At that point, the only 2 people on the team who were from Jersey was me and Tommy DeVito. So they're like, "Oh, you're from Jersey?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, so like it's supposed to be a dream come true." Like
the third string guy that came in with his like.
Oh yeah, that's Tommy.
Yeah. Okay.
Mind you, I played him in high school. He went to Don Bosco.
All right.
And I played him in college actually when he was at Syracuse. But like, yeah, they're like, "Oh, like this must be a dream come true." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Like Giants fan my entire life. You know what I mean? Like you kind of got to just play the game there. I don't think it's the smartest decision to say you grew up loving the Eagles in the Giants facility. So.
So your dad was a Giants fan, though, right?
Yeah, and still is.
Yeah. So how did he feel about that?
No, he was like everyone in my entire family. They loved it. Like it was a surreal moment for me. And again, obviously I didn't get drafted, but it still felt like an I made it moment, just because I wasn't being told I was going to be drafted by everybody. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't an assumption. Like it wasn't something that was guaranteed by any means. It was just like, okay, cool. This is a possibility. You know what I mean? And I believe in myself, and everyone around me believed in me, but it's like, all right, like let's see what the league has entail. And once they signed me, like I was getting texts and calls from all the people in the organization, and it was just like, all right, like you're a Giant, like just like that. And it was surreal. So we actually went up because my teammate CJ Hansen, a lineman from Holy Cross, he lives in northern New Jersey. He actually got drafted by the Chiefs. So we were like, okay, this is amazing. Let's go up. And we drove up and celebrated with him. So that was a really cool moment. My other teammate, Jalen Coker, he was a UDFA with the Panthers. So, I'm FaceTiming him. We're talking to the coach.
Coker with the Panthers?
Jalen
He's
Coker. He was
actually
my outside receiver. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, because I mean,
he,
there was
he's a monster. He's wide receiver 2 right now for them.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, so
Yeah,
you're teammates with him? Okay, good stuff.
yeah. That's my guy.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was a surreal moment.
So, from a playing perspective, Eric knows what's coming. So, in terms of what kind of style player are you on the field? Do you chirp? Do you yap? You get under people's skin? What do you do with your quarterbacks
I mean,
that press you?
I'm really to myself because once I get going, I don't stop, and that's the problem. Like,
Sounds like someone else I know.
like that's just I'm kind of
Retired.
reserved. You know what I mean? Like I like to I think we all like to have fun, and when you're having fun, you're doing your thing. You like to let other people know about it. I think that's just a natural human thing.
See, I normally I think Eric, we have asked a couple of guys, or all of the guys really, and even across different sports, and normally they always say, "Well, I'm not really normally like that," But once they get started, I watch football, watch other games. I think some of you guys are like that. You do want to talk shit.
It doesn't take much. I'll tell you that.
Is that guy looking at me weird? I'm just gonna go off on him.
No, like literally, yeah, like
background, so he knows how to just cut it out of his head and not let it affect him. Also, but they
like
play mind tricks with the guys also and say, "You will not catch me. I'm gonna score a touchdown."
Yeah, like I think it also depends on like what it does for you. Like some guys, they get too amped up and it takes them out of their game. Like me, it only makes me want to do better, if that makes sense. Because I know like if I'm talking, I have to be on point. You know what I mean? Like I have to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like it only, I don't know. Like when you say like for me turning it on, it just you just get pissed off by like the most minute thing. Like you said, like literally, I remember we were walking in to play at Holy Cross one time, a home game, and the opposite team was warming up on the wrong side. And like, I don't know why, it just infuriated me. Like I was in the locker room, like, bro, like if you're not mad about this, like don't come out of the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things, and that was one of my best games. But
That's
it was
like
just
warm-ups in hockey, if you cross center ice, like some guys do it.
Yeah.
If they cross over, that's a sign for like, all right.
It's just sometimes you just feel disrespected. You know what I mean? It's just this small thing, but you're like, all right, it's just the principle, right? And we play a sport that's really physical, like hockey. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, well, someone has to pay for this.
Yeah.
It's not like swimming, Eric, Oh, you're my lane of the pool, okay?
It's not like that in that way.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you do? Rip their goggles off, Eric? What do you do? What do you do in swimming? If they get in your lane.
oh, you piss on the person.
Very
Swim
effective.
faster, and you say, "Suck that in."
There you go.
Okay.
Well, should we do the walk-off 10?
Yeah, I mean, man, Ayir, that was very insightful in terms of like walking through the entire that's it's just great to have somebody like share that experience, man. So I appreciate that, but we're not done yet. Again, the walk of 10, Eric. Take us from here.
So I'm going to ask you either a true/false question or a one-word answer.
Okay.
All right. True or false? You have caught a football in your dreams.
True.
All right. One word. What's scarier, alligator or cornerback?
Alligator.
True or false? You have practiced a touchdown celebration before scoring the touchdown.
True.
Okay. One word. Hands or speed?
Hands.
Yeah. One word. Pancakes or protein?
Protein.
Yeah.
Right answer.
True or false? You believe every pass thrown in your direction should be caught.
True.
Okay. Turf or grass?
Grass.
Yeah, I agree. True or false? You have looked up at the Jumbotron during a play.
True.
All right. And one word, what's your alter ego on game day?
Reserved.
Sounds right.
Did they actually? Did they change the to grass in MetLife, because MetLife has turf, right? Or was it?
Yeah.
Was it a combo?
It's turf, and for FIFA they changed it to
Yes.
grass.
Because that was one of the peak. Obviously, I'm a Jets fan, and that was one of the things. I never heard good stuff about like the field on at MetLife.
You know what's funny? Because I get a bunch of questions about it. Like me personally, because I played on it in high school. We had a state championship there twice. And then we had 2 preseason games there my rookie year. Like, it doesn't feel bad. Like it feels good. Like, it's not like it's like hard. Like, I've been on like bad turf where it just feels like a carpet laid over concrete. Like, that's not what it is. But like, I think it's the pattern or something that there's like, I don't know. But there are a lot of injuries that happen on there, and that's why like, grass is preferred by most athletes. I always tell people, right? Like, when you're making a cut, right? It's just math. Like, if there's too much force, something's got to give, right? With the grass gives.
Yeah.
But the turf doesn't give, so something has to give.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the shame of it. Like, I understand, they say it costs a little bit more money and everything like that, but like, what's the cost of your star receiver, being out 9 months every
I
year?
have made that point also. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Well, your team just finally that happened twice now with Neighbors, right?
Neighbors.
I don't know where he got injured. I'm just saying, like like
No, MetLife.
it was MetLife. Okay.
Look, Neighbors, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles at MetLife.
Well, I was at that game. Trust me. Yeah, I was not till the end.
Daniel Jones, I think he tore his ACL. Like their ACLs, like Sterling Shepard, Odell, like all these guys. Like MetLife is known for it.
Yeah.
Not good. Let me ask you one last question. You're a Jersey guy. What basketball team you rooting for? Nets or Knicks?
I'll go with the Knicks. I like Wemby. I like Wemby.
Not,
like
not right now. We like him. We don't like him right now.
I don't like. Bro, he's so fun to watch. Like watching him beat OKC.
I loved him at game 1 in the finals. He was very fun to watch.
He's fun. Yeah.
He was.
You know what? Again, I was a Nets fan growing up, right? Because we had the Jersey Nets.
Well, like Keith Van Horn, Kenyon Martin, Jason Kidd.
Like Vince Carter. You know what I mean? Like
Eric Canada. There you go. All right.
Like that was cool, and then they moved to Brooklyn. I'm like, all right, it's not as cool anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are in New York, you guys left us. Like,
I mean, the Nets originally came from New York. They were playing at Nassau Coliseum. Like
that was before me. You know
that
what
was
I mean?
before me too. I'm just talking. I got that ESPN Classic channel. It was before me too. Eric was alive, but not me. Yeah. No, Ben. I appreciate your time, Ayir, and all the best in your future with your career, etc.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Nah, I appreciate you guys for having me on and having this conversation. It's a lot of fun for me.
Thank you.